Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Piano Star Masterclass. I'm your host, Brian Lin. Today, we have our the guest teacher today is Igor Lipinski. He is a concert pianist and an assistant professor of piano at the University of Oklahoma. His show, Piano Illusions, took him across the world from Hong Kong to New York City, presenting his unique show of music and magic at festivals, concert halls, and symphony orchestras. Remember, during the live stream, you can ask us any questions in the chat and we'll try our best to answer them. You can also sign up to be a performer for these masterclasses and get a chance to perform for our live audience. Welcome to the show, Igor.
Hey, thanks for having me. Welcome.
Thank you. So how are you, first of all, during this pandemic? I just what have you been up to?
Yeah, thanks so much for asking. I think the pandemic caught everyone by surprise, if you will. And, like most universities, we shut down back in March and we moved on to an online teaching. But miraculously, we're back to in-person teaching. As of last week, I went back to campus and we're teaching with a lot of, one-on-one lessons with a lot of precautions, wearing the mask and having the screens in between pianos and having separated, long, lengthy 30-40 minute breaks between lessons to disinfect instruments. And so it is nice to sort of finally hear live music in person in a way, hearing it in the same office, but I'm still teaching online. Some of my international students haven't returned to the States, so we're choosing that kind of mode of teaching. But I've had an entire concert tour that was of the show that was completely wiped out, and in a way had to reimagine myself and reinvent. From the scratch. I had a lot of free time, which was great. But it's a lot of time for practicing and thinking about what's going to happen next. And I've been recording a lot. I'm very passionate about recording, and I've actually recorded my own album myself and produced it and published it back in May, and now I'm recording new things. So sort of thinking that maybe that can fill in the gap while we wait and can back to live performance, because I'm really hungry for it.
Right, of course, and I'm sure things will go back to normal one day. And so before this pandemic, and you mentioned that you had your show Piano Illusions canceled, but before that you were already I guess performing music and magic at the same time. I was just wondering, how did the idea of music and magic come about, and can you tell us a little bit about the origins of your show Piano Illusions?
Yeah, Brian, and when we start talking about magic, I never stop talking about it. So
sure,
cut me out. But like most pianists, I started at an early age, and I was taking lessons. I think when I was 6, 7 years old, and went through a route. I grew up in Poland. I went to a music school, sort of like a conservatory model school, and then after graduation I went to college. I studied at Eastman, etc., etc. But all throughout I had this passion, which was magic, and it was, I think a lot of kids get that bug, the magic bug, get a magic set, but they outgrow it, when they're 12, 13, and then they pick other things. And for me, this never left me, my great-grandfather did some magic, and then when he passed away, I was just 6 years old. I remember inheriting a book on card magic from his drawer. And I just couldn't believe that, you can read about all these things that he's performed for us when I was a kid. And then later, I had several magician mentors. I traveled to festivals all throughout Europe. I went to France. I went to Czech Republic. When I was 16, which was, I think, a year before my Eastman audition, so piano audition, when I was 16, I went to Dubai, United Arab Emirates, to do 60 shows as a magician. So I was a very serious student of magic. And, it really never left me. And when I would often do, if I did like home concerts or salon concerts, I would often, do some magic as an encore. But I wanted to see if I can merge them, somehow together. It started when I was doing a secondary major. It was sort of like an honors curriculum at Eastman called musical arts major. And in addition to your senior recital, you were supposed to be working on some sort of a project presentation by your senior year. So in those 2 years' time, I worked with a theater professor, theater director, on combining the two in one performance. I did a lot of research, a lot of studying about, pianists, especially in the 1830s and 1840s, and the origins of the piano recital. Because as you know, piano recitals, as we know them now, looked very much differently then. You have recollections of Chopin's debut when he was 19 in Vienna, when he was playing La ci darem la mano, the Mozart variations. In between each variation, audience was applauding. Because that was sort of like a jazz performance of the time after the solo of the performer. Everything was very much, I think, organic and involved. That separation between audience and the performer wasn't as much. And then you have a Liszt who would often finish his recitals by asking the audience to write down the names of their favorite arias, and then they would drop that into a silver urn. Then he would bring the silver urn on stage, draw one of those, read them out loud, make a few jokes, connect with the audience, and then settle on one of those and include them in his final improvisation. So it was very much audience-centered, and it fascinated me. And so I finished and completed that performance, and that was quite successful. And that was 2009, and ever since I've been traveling with the show, and it took me really to many places, and it's just a wonderful way of, one, introducing new audiences to classical music, but two, especially for me, combining two passions, genuine passions of something that I'm completely in love with, which is piano music and magic. And I'm also fascinated by that synergy between technique, dexterity, and let me see if I can get this, a sleight of hand, right? And I promise you I'm going to do some magic, and this is a debut for me to do anything on a live stream, so we'll see how I'll do it. But this is a $50, an American silver dollar with John F. Kennedy on the coin. And if you can look at it carefully, I've worked on this since I was literally 11 years old. I can roll the coin pretty well in my right hand. The left hand, this goes very slowly. Right hand goes pretty fast, but the left hand, it's too, so I usually just do it with the right. You can see the coin if you blow on it. Up, it vanishes and comes back here. Watch carefully here. Here. Vanishes and up. Comes back. And of course, you know that I do all of this through the help of the sleeves. So I take one coin and I can transport it from one hand to another, just like that, right? So it started with little sleight of hand tricks like that, and of course then it moved up. I started working with another props, decks of cards, right? And it's really fascinating because the minutia sleight of hand movements can be very much translated to what we do on the piano. And so, I first started learning how to properly shuffle the cards. There are so many different techniques. You can cut them in a certain way. You can sort of ripple through them. You can fan through them. But I don't know if you can see this.
Yes.
If we can translate the sleight of hand into magic. This is Jack of Spades. I'm gonna put that card right here. So take a closer look at this, and then 3 of Spades. I'll take it. Hop, vanishes, and that goes here. Right? So, something like this, and it fascinates me because what you really need, and probably we're going to hear this today from the Masterclass performers, you need absolute control of your dexterity and control. You know, and here you have 52 cards. Like, I can show you quickly. Like, let me find the 4 aces, because they're sort of most. You can see this most clearly. So if you look at this, I have 1 ace here, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna shuffle them back into the pack. We're gonna use all those shuffles that I showed you, and they're completely mixed, but you know that it's not necessarily true, right? I mean, I have a full control of the cards. You have 1 card. I can let's see if I can do this. I've been teaching all day and haven't done magic today yet. I can get that, and I can watch this. If I can distance myself, hop. I caught it. I think I got it. Right in between, there's 1.
Wow.
And there's 2. And then see if I can do one last one. This one is a hard one. But if I can just do it in 1, 2, 3. Got it.
Wow.
Right. So control, and it fascinated me. But how do I go in front at a piano recital, play some Chopin nocturne,
right,
and then come out with a deck of cards and entertain the audience? Of course, it didn't quite make sense until I really thought about it, until I thought about how music and magic and can complement each other, and that's where the show sort of happens. And so I can give you one example. I have this piece where, and I've heard it back in college in one of my theory classes, where they were talking about the Paganini variation by Rachmaninoff, and they were playing the 18th variation. That beautiful sort of a love theme.
Yes.
But then all of a sudden, it is really doesn't quite fit in the sphere of the rest of the variations. But we musicians know that what Rachmaninoff did was sort of smoke and mirrors, right? Because
yes.
He turned it upside down, so that main theme went. Right, and I immediately, when I heard it, and when a theory professor was explaining this to me, I was like, "This is a magic trick. I have to do it." And I knew that if I tell this to the audience, people will get it, and people will respond to it. So I have this routine where I talk about this, and talk about the Rachmaninoff, talk about Paganini upside down, and then I say, well, why don't we write a theme and variations of our own? And I pull out a deck of cards. They select 5 cards. Those 5 cards correspond to the notes on the piano, so we create a melody, sort of like Liszt, what he did at the end of his recitals, and then we improvise. First we turn that melody into a waltz, then turn it into a nocturne, etc., etc. And then I reveal sort of the finale where I turn that melody into a famous tune. So I have a video online where I turn the melody into a Mozart Turkish
right,
march,
Turkish march, right?
So there's this sort of kicker, and at the end, one of the cards was signed. So I say, I don't know if you saw me struggling with the pedaling today, but I had something in my shoe, and then I take out my shoe and I take a signed card from that. So it has that very entertaining, appealing, educational aspect to it, but it's also very on one hand, but it can be very beautiful. Like it can be moving and it can be very, very artistic. I have this piece with a letter from my mother in Poland, I present this letter and then I talk about nostalgia and missing home, and then I say that I'm going to play one of the mazurkas by Chopin, that he's composed most of them in Paris, far away from home, and then I say, well, why don't you pick a piece that I'm going to play, and then someone picks one of the mazurkas and then closes the book, and then I say, well, I'm gonna think which piece you chose, because homesickness is so strong that it overwhelms not only an individual, but it can overwhelm this entire room. And then I sit down and played it. So that's sort of like mind read that piece. And I say, is that it? And that person says, yes, that's it. Well, what page was it on? And then I open the page, and the page is gone. And I say, well, I think I know what happens. I think that's why this letter from my mother arrived this week. And then someone on the other side of the stage opens the letter and the missing page from the book is there. So It can be very poetic as well.
Wow.
And, I'm very...
Right, so the show Piano Illusion sounds like you have to constantly find new materials. It's not just one routine, right? It's the Rachmaninoff show, and then you have the mazurka show. How do you how often do you have to find new materials, and what's the creative process in that?
Yeah. Thanks for asking, Brian. Some of the things I have done, I've performed for over 10 years now, and I'm like the basic structure of the show is there,
right?
But because I also have a script, everything is sort of written out. There's a lot of audience interaction, so there's some improv, but mainly it's I'm very much a proponent of knowing what you're doing every single second on stage, But I do add a new material quite frequently, just piece by piece. Adding and testing and seeing if things work. So, for example, one of the pieces, and it's been, again, time flies because it's been already over 10 years when I worked with him. But I worked with Teller of Penn and Teller, who has really opened up my mind and opened my horizons on how the show can be structured. And it was a serendipity of how we really met, because one of my... Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, something was going on.
I muted myself so that you can speak more clearly.
Okay, yeah. Super. So one of the conductor of Las Vegas Philharmonic, Harold Weller, he reached out to me, and we started talking. And thanks to that connection, he found out from me that I'm passionate about magic and such. And when I did that senior recital with Music and Magic at Eastman, I sent my what used to be a DVD, probably now it would be a YouTube link, but a DVD to him, and then he shared it with Teller. And it was incredible because Teller called me up once he's seen it, and we really clicked. And turns out that he loves classical music. He has an original Wanda Landowska harpsichord in his studio. He absolutely loves Bach. He's a specialist in Shakespeare. He was actually he directed several Shakespeare plays and did them with magic and incredible additions. But he really knows a lot about Bach. And so with him, we worked on a bunch of ideas, but this is one routine which sort of was added early on to the show, which was based on the fugue. This is a fugue from Toccata in E minor, and it's based on the idea of the complexity of the fugue. It starts it has 64 notes, and then goes to the right hand, the main subject, while the counter subject plays, and then the main subject goes to the left hand, etc., etc. And as pianists, we know how much mental capacity that kind of performance requires. But we were thinking, Taylor and I, how can we do this and complicate the matter, right? So we did. How can I do it even? How can I add an extra voice? So the extra voice was a deck of cards. So I have. I start by saying that I'm gonna show audience how I memorize and prepare before recital, and I hand someone a deck of cards. They go ahead and shuffle it. Then we come up on stage, and then I say that I'm going to play this complex fugue by Johann Sebastian Bach, while I call out each and every card one by one, the cards that I'm about to memorize in a 15, 20 seconds or so. So there's this whole ordeal of me memorizing the shuffled cards while the metronome goes off and counts the 15 seconds. Then I sit down, play the fugue, and name those cards out loud. And it's really dramatic showpiece. I stop, I forget, I stumble, but it's really sort of a wonderful, joyful addition to the fugue. And yes, it's never going to replace the genius of Bach, right, and the genius of that piece. But it really highlights the complexity of like the mental practice that we have to do as pianists, as musicians. And so that came very quickly and was added to the show thanks to that wonderful collaboration that I've had. And the process it just changes. You have an idea and you worked on it for several years, and then it when it's ready, you present it in front of the audience. Magic takes time. You would be surprised. You can do certain sleight of hand, but to build a routine into a show, into a piano, and that takes a lot of thinking and a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, I'm really curious. So, it's nerve-wracking enough to go on stage and play a piece of music, but you have to play music and perform magic. Which do you find more, which is more difficult, do you think? And which one do you find more nerve-wracking for you?
I cannot believe it, but I'm actually most comfortable when I do both. So when I actually do, so it's just, I think I found my niche, and I found something that I feel absolutely great about. I think it's also that, I've done, in recitals, we often play new programs, and we often play new music.
Right.
But I've played and practiced that show, which, you've just asked whether I add new material. I do, but largely it's a similar show for so many years that I could recite the script from that show in the middle of the night. And I think I'm very, very comfortable when I'm in that sort of mode. But the hardest thing for me when I was starting out was were the transitions. So you do magic, you connect to the audience, you talk to them, you do. Then you sit down and it's a completely different
kind of art.
Different art, yeah. And so that was hard. And then also talking and playing, and not only with a routine like the card fugue where I play, but actually just like presenting and talking. That's very difficult, and it sort of takes you a lot of like focus and refocus. But it really depends. But I mean, I still practice magic. I don't practice it as much as I used to. I practice, I mainly work on new music and such. But magic requires. It's sort of like like athletes and sport best. Athletes and best musicians who need to keep in shape. We magicians also need really a lot of that as well. And I can't just like rely on my scales. You know what I mean? And like I couldn't like just rely on my shuffling and then know that piano will come out well.
Right. Before we we spent a lot of time because it was so interesting to hear you talk about your show and magic. I'd just like to ask you, how do we use that and apply it to music to recitals. I guess for our pianists out there who are planning recitals for the future, how do they apply this to create a creative recital program? How do they find new music? And I guess since we only have limited time, I'm going to combine some questions and ask you, what do you think is the future of piano recital? Yeah,
absolutely. I first and foremost, I must add that I absolutely love and live and breathe piano music, and so the fact that I have the show and do the magic, and it doesn't preclude, and that doesn't deny the value of just pure beautiful recital experience, which we're also hungry for, by the way, right now.
Definitely,
especially now, right? But there's something to be said about understanding your audience and remaining relevant. Simple things. And they've been talked about for years now, but turning to an audience and treating them like equals, like they're involved in that sort of communion of music making, that turning and speaking to them, introducing music in a simple but engaging way. Knowing what you're playing and then performing it would make a huge difference to a lot of young pianists that are thinking of creating something. It doesn't have to be unique. Like, for example, with magic, and I just absolutely love magic, and I studied magic, and I still read books on magic and watch magicians and follow many, but it was very natural. It was very organic. It wasn't anything artificial, and so I want to make sure to raise that as well. That it doesn't have to be all of a sudden a multimedia presentation where you're doing something that you're not quite comfortable. But it doesn't mean that it shouldn't be. I mean, you can find people that are great in photography, that are fabulous, visual artists. You can do collaborations. The best way to do something unique, like what you're doing with the Piano League, for example, is to just start it. You just do it, and then start some sort of a project, and then grow from there. And it doesn't have to be, especially, you don't have to reach the stars right away with it. But I think the future of the piano recital, we've seen throughout this pandemic how technology is really helping, connecting people, but it also, we see the limits of technology and the fact that people are starving to hear live performance. So I'm very optimistic that just a pure show of artistry is still going to be happening, even with all these additions of hybrid piano, and when the streaming is going to be as good as real life performance. I think there's something to be said about experiencing music in the same room, from the fourth row in your favorite seat, and getting all the vibrations of the acoustic of the room, and sort of enjoying that experience firsthand. So I think recital and classical piano will thrive online, but ultimately people will want to experience it in real life.
I absolutely agree with that as well. But obviously, I'm sure you've heard the news. I want to hear your take on it, and then we'll move on to the masterclass portion, which is Columbia Artists. I think the management company went out of business, and that sent shockwaves in classical music world. Do you think they just caught a bad luck, the timing of the pandemic, and do you think what was your reaction on that news?
Honestly, it was shocking.
Right.
It was in a way, when I was growing up, I always wanted to be on roster of Columbia artists. Who wouldn't, right?
Right.
And then I would be out of a job right now. So I guess there's a consolation.
Right.
But on a serious note, it's really telling. When I think about it, when everything stopped to full. There was nothing. These management companies had absolutely nothing. How can they be making money on online recitals? In comparison to the festivals and orchestras, so many orchestras are furloughed, and so many players are without jobs for at least another semester, another season, half season at least. Some canceled it all the way to summer of 2021. Honestly, I don't know. I know that social media is very helpful, and a lot of pianists will actually be able to, a lot of pianists manage themselves, and a lot of pianists. But it's still just. You cannot. It is shocking, and
it is,
and I don't know who's gonna fill that void, It is just very telling of our times.
Right.
Columbia, isn't that the one of the main manager was the manager of Horowitz, right? So
right. It's just it's shocking, and I personally just think they caught a bad stroke of luck, and
I think so.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
And they don't have. I guess they don't have the money to sustain past this, and I also agree with you that once this is over, people will be even more hungry than before to attend live concerts and to listen to live concerts. So definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah.
With that said, it is time for the masterclass portion of our show, and but thank you so much for sharing your experience and your telling us about your show, and definitely when this is all over, when the pandemic is over, we will all be waiting to see you in different cities and seeing your show.
Fantastic, thank you.
All right, so our first performer of tonight is Ryan. And he's in the backstage. I'll bring him in. Hi, Ryan.
Hello. Hey, Ryan.
Hi. All right, so I'll leave it to you guys, and let me know when you need me.
Okay, fantastic. Okay. Hey, Ryan, how are you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. Okay, well, you can start whenever you like. Good, Ryan. Fine performance. Can you hear me well? Yeah. Okay. Terrific. So tell me a little bit about your experience with that etude. How long have you been working on this, and also if you've studied any other Chopin etudes?
I've been working on this about 9 months now, I believe.
Nine. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, about 9 months. And I worked on the winter for this. Okay.
I'm sorry. I can barely hear you. You worked on the other. Which other?
The winter wind etude.
Oh, winter wind etude. Okay, fantastic. Yeah. Thanks so much. I can now hear you well. You have really a terrific energy, and I think a lot of the moments in that etude are so refined, and you keep that sort of steady hand, if you will, and you're also quite sensitive, and there's a lot of drama already that you're doing. It's fascinating. There's so much incredible harmony in this piece, but it goes and flies by so fast that we can really, barely experience it. And so, I would encourage you, right now, and we can do this together for a moment, to sort of slow down everything and find those moments. So, for example, right from the very beginning, you have these, and I'm not sure if you can hear me well. Here, and then accompanied itself. Listen to this. Having understanding of really gorgeous harmonic progressions there will really make you much more sensitive in these places. I'm also looking at all these moments, like the measure 13. Let's see it. There's an incredible moment at the very end, measure 66. Here, F sharp, and then everything on one pedal, and it's just remarkable that he was able to put in all of that in a span of a minute and a half. Let's do this one more time. And one thing that I want to hear you do is the left hand first. So listen to that line. Try this for me.
Just by itself?
Just by itself, yeah. Pretty good. So it's crescendo. This is descending left hand, but it will that kind of accompaniment. Try this again. Yeah, good. So the right hand here, try that one more time. Slow everything down so that you can really create some more interest. So you go you always have to have some sort of a place to go. So here you go and experience the distance between F sharp and C, and then E, D, and finally an octave, right? So you go and then finally there. Do it really slowly. So you would do and as beautiful and as beautifully shaped as possible, and reminding also of that left hand. Try this again, Ryan, for me. Yeah. One little tip. You know, at the beginning, there's forte and there's forzando, right? In your score. Yeah, but I wouldn't, you know, relax the arms and I wouldn't sort of stomp on that downbeat. It's and then it's an up gesture. So yeah. Yeah, very good. And so now, and I'm gonna let you play this opening again, but once you go to octaves, same thing as you did in, you're gonna do, you know, I'm not sure how much of my piano is projecting to yours, and so maybe you're not hearing enough of dynamic variety, but I'm really trying my best. So it's, try that, just the right hand. Yes, and then so you go. That's another instance where you go down with the chord and then up. So from the keys, and then slightly lighter. The first few are, and then go. Right to the downbeat. Start out one more time from here. In slower tempo, just the right hand for now. Thank you. Good. So we have what I'm looking for is basically highlighting all those details that I already heard in your playing, and just making them a little bit more pronounced, a little bit more vivid, a little more interesting. And when we slow everything down, as you know, because you wouldn't be able to play that well if you know, I mean, that kind of practicing is absolutely valuable, and especially in pieces that we already brought to such great level as you did. You know, taking the moment and really practicing. One is without pedal, and two in an absolutely painfully slow tempo, to not only, you know, check if you have the control of the piece, but also to check and remind ourselves how incredible some of these passages actually are, because they just go by so quickly during the playing. But so, okay, so you got this. Show me that from the beginning, slightly under your final tempo. But so we talked about releasing that, going with that gesture, and then getting a little bit of shaping in the left hand, right? Then you go, sorry for that note there. So you go from, and then same thing, down, up, and then goes, there's an accent, and then up, subito piano from there. That develops a little bit more. And then sort of stop the motion. You want to keep going by the one, and then you lift, and then go from down, that subito, towards the repetition. Try that again, slightly under your final tempo. Yeah, and it's just slightly too heavy, but also it may be this way, on the live stream. But if you could, lighten up some of this, for example, here, even the octave. So, knowing, for example, that this, almost the tops play by themselves. You need a little bit of, you know that quite well, but, rotation here, right? So you get a lot more, you can play it in one sort of sweep gesture. And then same thing for, so you get a little bit more intent in the thumb, but the 5 is much lighter. And that way the whole passage will seem, active rather, but not as heavy. Try this again one more time, maybe tempo. Do this. That's your tempo. Pa 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 pa. Yeah, very, very lovely, and I could hear that distinction much better this time, especially on the octaves, and also that second time it came through. So very good. Okay, let's keep going to some of the other ideas. That very end. When I want you to play this again to really hear it. So go back to 62. So you have that whole. That passage there. What do you think? What do you think is happening there after the fortissimo? You have then. How do you approach this? What do you think is happening?
Mysterious, darker, and a big difference, calmer in a way. Also, coming off the fortissimo. Yeah,
absolutely. But he doesn't give you time as much, right? I mean, it's a bar, and fortissimo is in here, and then. But I love what you said, mysterious. And it's definitely, calmer in comparison, but there's this there's inevitability to it. I know that, I know it because the next page is the last page and the piece is about to over, right? But the audience doesn't know it. So it needs this. That constant. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Even though we want to keep the big beats, but or twos, but and then that way it will prepares you well on that transition in 66. That really incredible harmonic transition there that you can experience on, and Chopin does places the accent, and I wonder, it's a hairpin accent, and I wonder if he's indicating here some sort of lingering, so pulling. And in time, and con fuoco possibile. Take it with a grain of salt. Okay, let's try this one more time from the fortissimo. And let's see if you can sort of create layers. So. And then play a little bit more with the timing of that, that section. Okay, let's do this one more time, slightly under tempo. So, that's your tempo, and I'm talking about 62. Yeah, this run here. Could you do this slowly for me? I'm gonna watch. Yeah, pretty good. Just your thumb has to move slightly faster. So yeah. Yes, exactly. And then, I can hear myself. Sorry. So, and then here, let's see. Really? Yeah, good. So then you go here, and then make sure that thumb is active, just to get the nice shape there as well. So Ryan, it goes. Try this. Yeah, that's very sensitive, very very musical, if you will. So it reaches that high F, but at the same time you sort of bounce back off of it. Try this. Pretty good. Yeah, it was just slightly stiff. And then with the octaves, also need a slightly more. And the trick here is you go to fortissimo, you play the chord, and actually you don't sort of play on the same level with the left hand, but drop. So you get. Very nice. And then make sure that you voice that properly. So I would voice that. I would voice just so not get too much like lower sound. I would voice the thumb there. So. Good. And then, when you practice, I'm sure you're already doing that a lot, but your anticipation has to be slightly faster so that always anticipate. You know, you play, and then you're ready to play the next one. Do this exercise. It's the simplest exercise, but it's really fantastic. Oh, nice. And then all together. Yeah. Bravo. That was lovely, actually. So the shaping of that really is really so important. And then so you go, which you did, and then Ryan, could you show me this? I know he says crescendo. At least in my national edition of his etudes, in 66, he says, technically I should just go there, but I don't, I just think this change, we really need to experience clearly. So if you can, just takes a hair of time for us to hear that clearly. So right on 66 is under tempo. Yeah, and it's hard to hear over here, but just play the right hand. Very nice. And that way, when you interpret, or rather reinterpret Chopin's suggestion, you're sort of reading in between the lines. I think he's telling us quite a bit there. You're gonna be able to expand the final arrival in such a wonderful way, because if you go, go a little bit less, and then here. He says fortissimo, but you're not really, you have so much to go. So you go, there is where the big moment happens. Can you start that on, right on 69? Yeah, good. And give some space between. So you go. Big moment. Try it again. Yeah, very good. My watch just reminded me to breathe. So that's a good suggestion as well for you. But Ryan, I think we're short on time right now, but really lovely playing and so much detail, and it was so wonderful to hear you play today for me.
Thank
So
you.
best of luck.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for joining us at the Piano Star Masterclass. All right, so our next performer, for a change of style and composer, her name is Vicky, and she'll be playing Tchaikovsky's October from the Seasons. So we'll bring her in. Hi, Vicky.
Hey.
All right. So go ahead and get to work.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. Lovely, Vicky. It was so nice to hear you. Can you hear me clearly? Yes, fantastic. So, where are you playing at right now? Somewhere in Illinois? Is that close to Chicago?
Yes.
Yeah, I've spent 4 years in Chicago. I went to Northwestern, so I lived in Evanston for many years, and I have fond memories from there. So, but I'm currently tuning in from Oklahoma, so a few hours down south. But we weren't neither in Chicago nor in Oklahoma. We were somewhere in outskirts of Moscow, and that entire performance was really beautiful, so sensitive. The tempo, especially tempo you took, was very impressive because, as you know, it's just some pieces are harder to play, especially pieces like this in a slower tempo. Connecting the sound is just really, really difficult. Connecting and really listening through and making sure that the line is sustained. And most of the time, you really did a beautiful job. I have some suggestions. About voicing. Probably maybe finishing that beautiful gorgeous voice that enters in the middle, of the second iteration of it, right at the, measure 9, 10, 11. So we'll look at that. But there was also a lot of gorgeous detail that I mean, even that chord at the very end, I wrote it beautiful. Measure 51, when you go, can you hear my piano?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can.
Making sure that you never play the same chord the same way unless there is a reason for it, unless you want us to feel we're back, right? We're back to the same place. Anyhow, so if I may, like, what is this piece about to you? I mean, do you have any... Is there anything like in particular? Is there any image that you have, apart from what I've already told you, and that we're outside of Moscow, but we don't have to...
I think about it two ways.
Mm-hmm.
The first is the weather, and then the second is like a person's suffering.
Yeah. So like the weather and the nature, that's outside us, but the suffering is inside us.
Yeah.
And in a way, what you're telling me is that it could be a metaphor of like the fall coming, like the leaves falling and preparing for winter, preparing for a loss of something, the loss of summer, the loss of spring, the loss of loved one, maybe. Beautiful. And there's so much of that in here. I think one thing that and you do a beautiful job, and this is one piece that I really would love to hear in person, because when the note is struck and the sound, often the sound dies over the air, over the internet, but I know you really listen to the endings of this tone, and it's what I want you to encourage to do more of. So hearing and matching the end of that sound and always placing the points of tensions and resolutions in proper places, and you did that, but the endings so important. So you go, I'm gonna play slightly faster, so you get the tension here and resolve, tension and in and out. And the experience of this is something that I absolutely love, the way that you're talking about the human suffering on a very personal level, because like for now it's very contained, that opening, but then it really wants to yeah, and but it never really like fully gets there until later. It never really gets there until but even there, it struggles. And then of course finally and in a way I don't know if I find more joy in this, but I find that there's some sort of a good memory contained in that middle section. So there is a little bit of more hope, but of course, you know, that dies out with the reminder that the fall is upon us and the fall of life, of that. Okay, I'm talking so much, I want to hear you play. So go ahead and do this for me one more time. And you know those moments of tensions that I've told you about, and really experience the distance between the E and A. So you go. Try it one more time from the beginning. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous playing. Make sure, because in that slow tempo, you have to carry the flow, and there is a hair of a moment where we wait too long for one idea. So always ahead. Listen to. So for example, here. Listen to the gravity going towards E. So the note before becomes sort of a pickup note. You know, that's probably too much accent. Try that again from here. 2, 3, 4. I don't know if I can do this. Probably you won't hear me, but I'll try to conduct. Try this one more time from here. One. And. Yeah, good, Vicky. And you know, you get, when you look at a 4-bar sort of a phrase there, you'll see that, and I'm playing it much faster, but there's a lot more movement in this, and so he gets a little bit more animated on the, and then you can afford to slow down that descending line a little bit more. So go from Beautiful. Yeah, bravo. Okay, moving on to that. A gorgeous line. The ending. I only was missing the ending of it. So, make sure you get. It's D, G sharp, and then D. It's a D. You really want to hear that D going to B flat, but the B flat has to be absolutely soft. So could you do that for me? Just the left hand.
Just left hand?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. And you really felt now that resolution beautifully. Okay, so again, I'm not changing what you're doing. I'm only sort of pointing to this line and so that you refine this a little bit more. And now with the right hand, all of these really has to complement the counterpoint, but not that much. I really would focus on. You have this, the D, and then that nice descending counterpoint. That's beautiful, but then make sure that this is where we want to here. So one more time. That kind. Try that yourself, Vicky. Good. And then there, it was beautiful. Then the next few bars to me, this. That echo there. He first of all he places these accentuations. He really wants us to have pronounced them clearly. But I would also say something else. When you relax this, it's when it opens up and moves a little bit. There needs to be a little more movement. And maybe it's not, like your intuition may tell you that it's not the most musical thing, but make sure that you bring the left hand from that middle of the triplet right away. So it's what's that? It's like they're talking.
It's like they're talking. Yeah. And but for it to really project musically, you need to. And the ending of it, I liked, but I thought maybe
it slowed down too much. So maybe you can do. It's still within, but use these hairpins to create these moments of sigh and out of that despair of the opening. Try that again. Try that the little interplay that you talked about, the talking. Yeah, good, Vicky. And I like how you prepare every chord and you set it ahead. So you go, you really anticipate it, and then, whoops, I anticipated too soon that so you go set and because you really have the control, and also what it enables you is to imagine the sound first and then make it. All right, that middle part. I want to somehow connect it. I want to somehow feel unity between it. So there's a lot of intensity that happens in 20. So make sure that you hear. So you go on the. Anticipate that bass, and from that, try it again for me. Right on measure 17 to get us into that mood and really create the most special moment of the entire piece, sort of the core, the sentimental core, rather melancholic core of the music. Try to measure 17. Yeah, beautiful. Do you what do you have for the do you have a rolled chord from the bottom to the top?
Yeah.
And is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm doing that.
Yeah, you're doing that. Okay, I just kind of like so. Oops. So all the notes have to sort of ring. Go ahead one more time from. Yeah, and then so you could do that where you start together, but you could, for an effect, you could also start from the very
So if you do this fast enough, from the lowest to the... Anyways, good. If I can, just as at the end, we can try this one more time right after the roll. I really love bringing that second voice to more prominence. So, but remembering about its endings, these resolutions. That's the soft. So. Can you play this actually just with two hands, the accompaniment? This is sort of a neat exercise. Do you want to try this? Just the left hand. So you play bass with the left and then right hand, bass, and then together. Yeah, that's really good for the first time. And you know, I remember Chopin would often tell his students to practice his accompaniments with both hands. They're just so beautiful, and actually practicing it will make you find the sound that you want, and then really reach for it when you do it. You know, with just one. I'm gonna have to end here. But there was so much expression and so much maturity in your playing. It was a joy to hear you. So best of luck to you. Have a good evening. Take care.
You too.
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye. All right. Thank you so much. That was a wonderful. Those were wonderful students, and that was a wonderful class by you, Igor.
Thanks so much.
Any last words for our audience?
No, thanks so much for having me, and I'm so glad we're connecting over internet in those trying times, and just keep on playing.
Yes, and hopefully in person soon.
Yes.
So,
yes.
With that said, that finished today's episode. Remember, for everyone else, the masterclass happens every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's it. Happy practicing, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.